pass those to you.
No.
Pass those to me. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
All right.
Now we're locked in.
Okay, we're on Facebook
Hey, excuse
Live.
me guys,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Just gonna be behind
And
you.
your volume control is right here.
And where's have your phone ready so I can
Yeah.
plug that in, eh?
How do I
open
just
it?
keep it plugged
Hey
in?
everybody, Facebook Live. We're going live in a couple seconds.
Oops, sorry.
It's up to you. I'd rather you did, yeah. Or have it ready to play, right?
Yep.
Okay. Can you guys hear? Okay. Okay, microphones are going on. And good afternoon, Vancouver. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio. We're coming to you live from Vancouver Co-op Radio 100.5 FM. Hello, Mr. Darren Gaylor,
Hello.
our co-host.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Wow, something happened to this board. It's really loud today. Somebody must have cleaned it. Maybe, yes.
Crank it up. Turn it up.
We come to you every Thursday live, noon to 1 o'clock. Some of you love us. Some of us, we talk about some interesting topics, all different pathways
but
to
how can
recovery
you
from
hate
addiction.
us?
I know. Look at this face.
This
Oh, we're
is
on
love.
Facebook Live. Look, Facebook Live, everybody.
Hey.
Thanks for watching.
Lovers not fighters, friends not foes.
Yes. So if you like our show, you can replay it on SoundCloud and iTunes, and thousands of people are listening out there. Thank you very much. Every once in a while, one of them says hi.
Yes.
One of them.
Say everything.
Excellent. We've got some exciting news out there today. We just announced that wonderful, famous Canadian rapper Son Real is going to be joining the
Nice.
Recovery Day stage this year, along with Canadian rock legends Trooper.
Yeah.
So, like, this is just phenomenal. I mean, if you don't know who Son Real is, you know, wake up. But Son Real is going
woke
to be...
now.
You're woke now.
I'm woke now.
30 million views on YouTube.
From Vernon.
From Vernon, yes, from Vernon. He's a Canadian BC local. And yeah, he's going to be playing on Recovery Day. Like, we're shooting for 50,000 people this year.
It's going to be a good day.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
such a
super
good
excited.
day.
We have 4 sound stages at Recovery Day. And I'm one of the organizers, so I kind of know what's going on there. Darren's the MC at Recovery Day.
I don't know what's going on until the day of.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, here's the script, just do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, where it's like since 2012 Recovery Day, it's on September 7th, noon till 5, 4 stages, street wrestling's going on. There's like 90 information booths, so it's like one of the largest outdoor health and wellness, addiction recovery, mental wellness, you know, all that type of health information is going to be going on. There's like 80 booths, tons of food trucks, and a giant kid zone. And I just want to touch base, because I always touch base on this. It's unbelievable how hard it is to get corporate Canada to sponsor or be part of Recovery Day. Everyone talks about the stigma of addiction, but the stigma of recovery in Canada is so loud. Like Evo, I'm calling you out. 4 years I've asked Evo. I go to festivals every weekend in BC. Every weekend I'm at Italian Fest, Greek Fest, Carb Free Day, and Evo's got like a lineup of cars, and every festival I'm like, hey man, you gotta come to Recovery Day. My roommate has Evo, and like everybody drives. Like when we stop smoking dope, we got money. They have ignored every email for 4 years, and it's like calling you out on it. It's like, what, you don't think we can buy cars or drive after we stop doing heroin? So it's like the gay pride movement from like 30 years ago. Nobody wanted to be part of Pride 30 years ago, and now it's like everybody's part of Pride. So, you know, me and our committee, we're trying our best to make that for Recovery Day.
And I mean, that's the tough part about it too. Is you know, do we want someone that's just there?
No, I do. Yeah,
You know,
because
do you?
yeah, I do. It's just like we need to change minds. They don't know that addicts recover. They don't know it. It's our job to tell them. Visibility is power.
Well, if you ever
They didn't
feel
know
discouraged,
They didn't know that gay lifestyle was more than just sex. And it was our role to show them that it's not just sex. It's everything else.
so we just keep going.
Yeah, we keep going. That's Talk Recovery Radio. Check us out September 7th, Recovery Day BC. And I hope you come. Whether or not you're in recovery or not, just come on out and check it out. So, we've got an exciting show today.
I'm excited.
Yes, Darren's excited. We've got on our show today, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the wonderful Alma bitches. We got James here. Say hello, James.
Hello, James.
And we've got say hello, James. Simon says. And we've got Kendal Gender. Kenneth, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But I've been called worse in my life. You
You've
can call me
been
whatever
called-
you want, baby.
We have all been there. We have all been there. Today we are talking about the Untoxicated Festival, which is part of Clean, Sober, and Proud. Started in 2009. We'll talk a little bit more about the history of Clean, Sober, Proud, and Untoxicated. Alma and Kendal are going to be both on our stage at Untoxicated. Alma will go from James. Every once in a while, I'll go back and forth. Will be our MC. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for being to the show. And so we're going to start off with Alma. Alma, you've been part of the show for a few years now.
Mhm.
And I have your title somewhere. Oh, I lost it. Yes, I
Excited.
lost it. I left it outside.
I wrote it on a piece of paper for you and everything.
Yes,
It's-
I know.
it's a long
Yes, I
script
go
there.
get it because it's professional.
I could
This
just
is
tell you if
like
you want.
no. As a radio host, I must introduce the guest with their title. Yes, it's just radio etiquette. Darren, do you see that crumpled up piece of paper out there? Yeah, there it is. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Where did it go?
I see it.
Do you see it? There it is. Okay, everybody, we've got Alma Bitches. Very important title. Emprex 48. Emprex 48 of Vancouver. What does that mean?
There's this organization called the Dogwood Monarchist Society, which is one of the oldest LGBTQI plus organizations in Canada. And so when you hear the number 48 attached to my title, that means that for the last 48 years, Vancouver's been electing 2 representatives to represent themselves in a North America and Mexico-wide charity court system. So every year we elect an emperor and an empress. In the last couple of years, we've introduced gender-neutral titles like emprex, and so that's why I'm emprex. And so after being elected, you're charged with raising as much money for some charities that you've selected over the course of a year. So my charities this year are Sage Community Food Bank, Urban Native Youth Association, ZZ Theatre, Positive Living BC, and Rainbow Refugee. And so myself and my emperor were deciding we want to raise $50,000 so we can give each charity $10,000 this year, and we are well on our way. So yeah, so when you hear someone's like an empress or an emprex or an emperor, that means that they've given up a year of their life to just fundraise for their community and whatnot, and they're going to be a part of something long after they're gone. It'll be the history of the monarchs.
And
of
so people
Vancouver.
go to events and they can donate money at these events.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
a pageant. Was it a pageant or what do they do? Like, how did you win?
It's more like
I'm all about winning.
It's yeah.
Aren't we all?
Nice person, super competitive. So you apply and you're interviewed and whatnot, and then should there be more than one candidate, you would have run a campaign and you would release posters in media and have a candidate show and all that stuff, and you'd come out with your platform. I was very lucky. No one wanted to run against me, so
Wow.
All my bitches.
Wow. I love the West End.
so I didn't have to do that much, campaigning. I was just I announced that I was doing it. People were really excited. I've always been fundraising. I helped the last few empresses out quite a bit, and I also was part of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. So drag and fundraising is nothing new to me. So people knew I could do it, and I knew I could do it. So yeah.
And for can I ask, how many years has there been an Empress?
Emprex was a title that was introduced by Empress and Emperor 46 Tommy D and Jane Smoker. It's a very new thing. So it was one of their proclamations that they got approved by the board of the Dogwood Monarchist Society to introduce this title, and they were the first place to do it in all of North America. And so it's been spreading now across to different court systems across Canada, across the United States, and whatnot. And so it's a fairly new title in the court system.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, there's so much goes on in our community. It's amazing. Yeah, and hopefully we can help out in raising some of that money as well. So Talk Recovery is an addiction recovery show, and Alma and Kendal are both here. They are sober and performing at the Untoxicated Festival. So I wanted to talk to you about what sober means to you before we get into the show, because there's many pathways to recovery, and so would you consider yourself sober in recovery? What's your story?
Well, I've always called myself clean and sober because that's when I first started going to recovery. That's what we call ourselves. And now I hear some people who really don't like the term clean when they're talking about that. And I'm just like, Okay. I've never really thought too much about that, so now I'm just calling myself sober out of respect to those people. I was in a recovery house when I first got. It was pretty bad. Like I was on like antipsychotics. I did crystal meth for 3 years. I literally lost touch with reality. That was one of the things that scared me so much. That was my bottom, was that the paranoid delusion I was having never went away when I went to sleep and I woke up. I woke up with it.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so that was the scary thing for me. Like, I think my record was staying up for 11 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
We
so-
laugh about it, but it's like,
Well,
that's
it's
sad,
messed
yeah.
up. It's
Yeah.
scary. It
Yeah.
does change you, like, and that was me from 18 to 21, and I remember I went to treatment center and I filled out this questionnaire, and they wanted to, like, it was all the different aspects of your life, and you write how satisfied you are with these aspects of your life and whatnot. And I remember, like, I hated everything except my life as a parent, but I don't have kids.
Okay.
So I pretty much hated everything.
satisfied.
I hated everything about my life.
Yeah.
And I remember them being like, oh, these are really, like, interesting scores you have on your sheets. And we don't normally take people into this program at that level.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, where do those people go? And they just kind of shrugged their shoulders and moved on, right? And I was like, okay. And, I, at that time in my life, I just thought I had a crystal meth addiction. And so I drank while I was in the treatment center because
Makes
you were
sense.
allowed to go out. Yeah. And I also, I just did other things, right? Because I just thought I had that one drug problem, right? With that one specific drug. And then for me, what I've learned is that I don't have a drug problem. I had a reality problem. I had a problem with dealing with life on life's terms.
And you didn't figure that out on day 2. It took some time?
No, that definitely took some time.
Okay.
I remember sitting, there was a nice gentleman that I met in this group that I found near the front of the phone book, and he used to read from this recovery book. And I remember we were sitting in a group of us, like all these people brand new in recovery, and I must have looked so unimpressed at what he was saying. And he went and he just looked at me and said, stopped everything. He was like, James? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you have a drug problem? And I was like, yes. He's like, do you want to kill yourself? And I was like, yes. He's like, if someone came up to you on the street and said, I have a drug problem and I want to kill myself, would you listen to anything else they had to say? I said, hell no, I think they were crazy. And then a light bulb went off. I'm like, why am I listening to my head? Mm-hmm. Why am I sitting here thinking that these people telling me about this new way of life are the idiots, or are the ones, they don't know me, they don't get me, or I know better? Obviously I don't. Look where I've ended up. And so that for me was like a turning point of just,
Well, they say, we listen to our own advice. That advice is the one that got us to pick up the pipe. So we should definitely listen to someone else for a little while, and that's all about being connected to community. And at first we don't know that. At first we hate community unless we're sleeping with them.
Yeah.
And then we realize it's the community we need to get involved with. Kendal, your
Yes.
story. I met you through being a performer. I don't know if the Brat Pack still exists, but
It does.
yeah, okay, awesome.
Yes.
Wow.
That's
Good. Yeah, no kidding.
Sorry,
I came here to have a good time, not to be attacked.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
The Brat Pack operates every week at the Junction on Thursday nights. The show's at 11:30 p.m.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. But we talked about this before the show. There's a group of sober people that go to clubs, and there's a group of sober people that don't go to clubs. And I'm one of those sober people that don't go to clubs, so I'm like out of the loop.
Mhm.
So before, like, where's your story? Did you go to rehab, or are you in recovery? Do you just stop drink?
Yeah, so I'm coming up onto 4 years sober. Yeah, woo for me. My story starts at a relatively young age. I would say around like the 13 or 14-year-old mark. When I was, in high school, I thought it was normal to drink a 2-6 after school and then go to class on MDMA. I was like, oh, that's what everyone does in grade 8, right? And in kind of retrospect, it's actually not what people are doing at that age. I was a very, very angry kid for a lot of years, I was close to getting kicked out of school, the typical bad kid story, pissed off at the world. And then as I kind of grew up, the 18, 19-year-old range, then drugs became a lot more prominent because I wasn't, in the confines of going to class from Monday to Friday, because then I had a lot more free time, and then all of a sudden I was legal, and then I could go out, so then my drinking became in a lot of excess, and then, then you're partying, not just with drinking, then you're doing cocaine all the time. And it spun out of control really, really, really quickly for me. Around that age, I was actually dating a drug dealer, which is never a good match for an addict, as I'm sure a lot of
It
people
depends
know.
on where you are in life.
Yeah, a pretty good idea, actually.
It was great at the time.
Yeah.
And then that kind of lasted for a majority of my 20s. And I could kind of handle it, I was a functioning addict. I was working still, I was going out at night, I was, putting on a brave face, and I was fun. I was looking up to Lindsay Lohan, I thought it was cool, And then, all of a sudden, me and my boyfriend broke up. Things started to spiral really, really quickly for me. And one night, actually, someone introduced meth to me at a party. And I say party really loosely. It was those dingy rooms at 8 a.m. right?
Dark rooms.
Yeah. And yeah, all of a sudden I tried crystal meth, and it was insane. It was like a rush I've never felt before. It was crazy, and it took over my life. It ate absolutely every facet of my existence. It ate my friendships. It ate my home life. I was like one piece of paper away from getting fired from my full-time job. I couldn't have a relationship with, not just a romantic relationship, but a friendship. I couldn't hold on to absolutely anything. I had, friends reaching out to me from my childhood, like wondering what's going on, because I was just lost. I literally think that crystal meth is the biggest epidemic that we face within, like, not just our community, but in the world, because it can destroy everything so fast.
And you don't even know it.
And you don't even know it, and you really don't realize it. And I'm talking, to be totally frank, I'm talking a downward spiral of about 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality of it. I got kicked out of my apartment. I had to move back in at home with my mom. And everything was just gone. Everything was just gone as I knew it. And one day after being rushed to emergency the night before from having basically a mental breakdown, thinking that my face was falling off, both my parents are divorced, and they both came to the house on Friday morning, and they were just kind of sitting there, and they're like, this, as you know it, is over, and it needs to stop. I was very lucky to have that support system from both my parents and from my immediate family. So basically what I did is I went with my dad to his house, and I kind of detoxed myself. I just sort of like stayed in bed and just kind of let everything flood out. Within the first couple days of like what I call detox, I started to get a flood of like what was going on, and it's sort of similar to what Alma was saying, and I was not happy with reality, and there were so many things that I wasn't facing. As a kid, I actually faced some sexual abuse, which is not something that I always talk about, but I think in this sort of platform, it's important to kind of know, there's a lot of catalysts for why we are addicts. Usually, happy people don't use crystal meth on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So yeah, and when I was in that sort of detox state of mind, everything sort of started flooding through, and I was like, oh crap, there's some stuff that I've been suppressing for a long time. So I started going to therapy, I started going to meetings, I tried, I was in NA, I did AA, I did SMART therapy, I kind of did, and then
Everything,
I did everything, and I went to this one-on-one therapy. And for me personally, that's what worked. Sitting with a therapist and talking about everything and really discussing why I had let my life go in this path and why everything was happening. And once I sort of started to discover that and unbox everything, I could break down in tears right now just thinking about it, but once you kind of get that out, the alternative to hiding it doesn't seem as necessary, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally
You know?
It does, and that's the, we often talk about the shame of, when you first get clean, or when you first, consider a different way of life, and how ashamed we are of our past.
Yeah.
But when, I don't know if somebody convinces us, or if we just come to realize that in the talking about it, in the discussion, there's so much freedom there.
Totally.
And we can, hopefully move past it.
And I think it's also that thing, once you admit to yourself that either you are an addict or you've been through some trauma, once you say that, the next time that maybe you want to use or you do use, it becomes a little bit harder almost, you know what I mean? Because there is that little voice in your head. You've already admitted it and you've said it out loud. So it's there. Whether you choose to listen to it at that exact moment, it's there and it does exist. So.
Yeah. And so now I'm curious, because a lot of, no matter what pathway of recovery we're talking about, most of them, even in the religious methodologies, it's like a community. There's a community support to, to keep going in a successful way. So when you sit in one-on-one and sort of realize some things and discover some things and begin to talk about some things, like you could walk out the door, feel fixed in a sense, and just sort of carry on from there, right?
To an extent, yeah, I totally agree with that sense of community. For my story in particular, my sense of community came from my family.
Yeah.
And building that relationship back with my father, for example, and sort of getting that support from him, that was my good sense of community, and that's what worked for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so when Giuseppe said, next week we have a couple of drag queens on the show, right? I was expecting the ladies to show up, I'll be honest. I was a little excited, right? But
I thought you were gonna dress up.
That costs extra.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Were either one of you, forgive my ignorance, performing as drag queens in your addiction, or was this something that came after?
Definitely, it came after for me. I was not out of the closet in my addiction. I actually came out in sobriety.
Oh wow!
And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's so for me, one of the things where people are always like, "Oh, I don't know how you do it." I'm like, I don't know. Luckily for me, I don't feel triggered being in a bar because I never used in a bar. I was drinking in parks, burning pallets with, I was doing that in my youth, right?
Burning
pallets. By the time, burning pallets and standing around them and drinking stuff and doing other stuff and when drugs came into it, we'd buy a bunch of, ecstasy to go out, but we'd never actually make it to where we were going. We just walked around. I was in Langley, right? And it was a different time in Langley. You just walked around and it felt like you just owned the city at 2 a.m. because it was so dead. So yeah, I never performed well.
Okay. And for you, Kendal?
Mine actually was a little bit different. So I started drag right in my sort of downfall, I'll call it.
She was a mess. I
was a mess. No, I was a huge mess. I mean, I started right when I first started drag. I was a coke head for sure, and I was just beginning to experiment with meth. For me, when I first started doing drag, it was kind of like wearing a mask. So that mask would sort of cover up my bad behavior. Do you know what I mean? Because then I could disassociate myself as Kenneth with the character Kendal. So I'm like, oh well, Kendal does math. I love it. Kendal is a party girl. She's fine.
Kendal is a party girl.
But Kenneth goes to work, and Kenneth wears blazers. Like, we're good.
That totally makes sense.
And there was a
the
huge
alter ego.
There was a huge disassociation for me. So when I got sober, I actually stopped doing drag completely. I was like, no, it's done.
Because of what it was associated
Absolutely.
with.
And even like my family was not like super supportive of it, that kind of stuff. It was just done for me for like for about like 8 months, I would say. 8 or 9 months I just didn't do drag at all. And then all of a sudden I got the opportunity to try it once. And then when I came back and re-emerged with this like, you know, obviously sober and all that kind of stuff, it became this like unbelievably therapeutic thing for me. Like I actually, the first performance I did coming back, I like
Legends calendar, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I literally was I did this like slow song, I was bawling my eyes
Christina
out.
Aguilera,
Oh,
she just
yes.
totally just like slayed the whole room.
And it was,
Yeah.
thank you. And
You're
it
welcome.
was therapy for me, and it became this totally different thing. And now drag for me is like it's my favorite thing in my life. It's my safe haven. It's my everything, you know. And I love the opportunity that I get to do it sober, and I get to share and spread love sober, basically.
Yeah.
Do you find yourselves as role models or pillars in the community for because it's a common story, sadly, in the gay community, crystal meth and other drugs, you know, when you see someone, you know, they asking you for help, or do you ever, like, what's it like when you know you're in a show and the performer that's after you or before you obviously needs some help? So what do you do?
Well, with performers, like I have noticed a shift because I'm very open about sobriety and I talk about it on the microphone. that kind of
Visibility,
thing.
yeah.
I'm just like, if you want to buy me a drink, just give me your money.
I should use that.
Just
Good.
tip me, just tip me,
that.
honey. I'll take the cash.
Oh,
But you know, that sort of thing. But I've noticed younger performers that are coming up, you know, because there's a few of us, like not just Kendal and I, that are openly sober. And so they're saying things like, oh, like, because, like, you know, no holding back, Kendal and I are kind of killing it in the city right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we can go do drag and we can go to our lives the next day and we're not hungover, we're not, you know, sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time. We are, you know, and there's
you're ready.
there are other queens that are like that too, and so the younger ones are starting to notice that, and they say things like, oh, I want to be they don't have problems with addiction necessarily, but I've heard them say, like, I want to be a sober queen like Alma. Look what she's getting done. You know, like that sort of thing.
That's a powerful statement. I mean, our community you know, sadly, for so many years, drugs ruled our community, ruled my community when I was definitely, you know, partying a lot and all that kind of stuff. And to have, when I grew up, there was no sober role models. Like when I was 16 years old, walking down Church Street in Toronto, like there was nothing sober around or anything like that. And then because of you, like that's changing. And so thank you for that, because that's what we need. I mean, if you're gonna party this Pride season and you're gonna get high and you're gonna get drunk, more power to you. No disrespect, like it's your life, and I did it. We've all done it. It's just enjoy. You know, if you feel like it's drugs are ruining your pride, then you know there's lots of people that can help, and it's available and so forth. So Untoxicated's coming up.
Yes.
So, and you were just talking about, you know, sober queens. You know, we've got Alaska, who, you know, says that she doesn't drink on stage anymore and so forth, and that changed her career, and Bob the drag queen and so forth. What does Untoxicated mean for you, and does it mean anything?
Untoxicated is probably, I'm gonna say, my favorite thing to do all year now. I've been doing it, I think this is the 5th year I've been a part of it.
I think so, yeah.
Alaska, Courtney, Trixie, Katya.
Katya,
Yeah, this is
fifth
number
year,
5.
yeah.
This is number 5.
Wow.
So, and it's literally one of the things I look forward to most, mainly just because the vibe, the crowd is so present. You know, like we do shows all the time for people who aren't necessarily present. You know, there's lots of people who come to our shows and we're grateful for them that are really into what we're doing, but there's a good portion of the people who are, you know, at the bar primarily to use the services of the bar.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so to be at a show like Untoxicated where people are just like looking at you, just like their eyes are wide, and you know, the things you say that might get like a little at the bar are like, people are like, oh my god, you're so funny. So Untoxicated's like a big deal, especially like, you know, being a sober member of the community and getting to celebrate that with, it's cool.
Yeah.
Kenneth, when you first heard of a sober dance, Untoxicated, what went through your mind?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story about Untoxicated. So the first year, I guess, that Alma did it when Alaska was there, I actually had tickets to go. I love Alaska. I'm very excited. And I was in the middle of my addiction, and I wasn't able to make it to the show. I just didn't get to bed Saturday night, so Sunday was not a good day for me. And it really made me sad, and it was just like, I was really excited, and I was just like, wow, I kind of screwed up my pride from my own BS, you know? So when I got to do it the first year, and now coming back again, it actually means like a lot to me. It's a full circle moment for me, to not just have one wanting to go as a patron and then now getting to go as a headliner. It's exciting, and it's very special. I think, kind of circling back to what you were saying about just like queer spaces and that kind of stuff. For so many years in our history, queer spaces and being underground back in the day and all that kind of stuff, they usually sort of cultivated in bars or these sort of like spaces where drugs and alcohol were very, very, very prevalent. So to get these huge sponsored events that are sober focused, it's so spectacular.
Just so you know what you're part of. So we started this in 2008 when nobody wanted to be part of, not even Vancouver Pride.
Wow.
Vancouver Pride actually said no, we're not part of this. You figure it out. There was just a different language narrative back then, and a totally different staff back then. And it's not that the staff did anything wrong. It just wasn't there was no conversation about.
The right time.
It wasn't the right time, and
They were the
and
Evo.
they were the Evo. They were the Evo.
Come around,
Good, yes.
Evo.
So we didn't even know what we were doing. Vancouver Pride is like, who are you guys? And so we kind of we didn't even have a name or anything like that, and we couldn't even get people to go. And Jaylene Time was at the first show, and a couple other performers, and there was like 40 of us, and we had to bribe people to go and all that kind of stuff. To get to Davie and Thurlow with the banner "Clean, Sober, and Proud" has been our goal since 2008. It took us that long to get there.
Wow.
So it's like a huge dream come true, not just for me. There's an army of people behind us. And so when you're on stage and you see the word "Clean, Sober, Proud," that's like it's just amazing, because it's in a city that has 4 dead people a day from overdoses, where drugs are just taking over a community, and sadly, our chief medical officer Patricia Daly is saying, everybody just needs to be on medication for the rest of their lives, and that will stop. It's no, we need community. We need participation. We need people to show, visibility, we can recover. So, it's a big deal that you're on our stage, because I know there's a lot of offers out there to be at different shows, and everybody wants a piece of you. And I appreciate that you are taking time out of your day to be part of it, because, at the end of the day, when you're sweeping, that garbage off of the street, you're like, why did I do this again? It's there's going to be a 14-year-old kid that's going to be like, wow, I had no idea that you can party and not do drugs. And that subliminal message, you're part of Darren's, we're all part of that. So I just really wanted to pay respect to that. So now the drag queens coming from RuPaul, there's this whole thing they're the big stars and all that. So there's a bunch of local queens. Who else is in the show? You're the MC.
Okay, so the local queens, of course, we have Kendal Gender, we have Jaylene Time, we have Ray Sunshine, so 2 legends of Vancouver drag have been at it, and they slay. We have a bunch of fairly new performers, but people that are really quickly established.
Cinnamon Winters in the recovery community, and Lola. I mean, I love.
Oh yeah,
Madam Lola.
Madam Lola is incredible.
Where did she come from? I saw her profile pic, and I was just like, "This is beautiful." Yeah. She's
actually a rainbow refugee.
Oh.
Yeah, so she fled Iran, where she's from. So she didn't, get killed, and she spent a couple of years in a refugee camp in Turkey, and she came to Vancouver, and she messaged me one time when I was holding an open show every Sunday night on Davie, and said, I want to perform. And I was like, oh, just come watch it and see if you want to perform, because she sent me a picture of her dancing but not lip syncing, so I just wanted to make sure she knew what we were doing. And she came that week and she said, I want to do it. And she came the next week, and Vancouver drag has never been the same.
Yeah.
Because she just let us know that we need to get better.
Yeah, we need to step it up.
We need to step it up, because Lola is incredible.
Oh, I'm so excited! I can't wait.
She's
Yeah.
mind-blowing.
Continental breakfast and
Continental
PM.
breakfast and PM.
PM. They were at Pride Premiere. They were the MCs there. Continental breakfast and PM. Like, you're amazing. I love their duets and so forth. So we're in store for an awesome duet with them.
Yes, we booked them for 2 duets, I believe.
They got 2 duets
Yeah.
going, so that's pretty amazing. So Untoxicated, it's going to happen on August 4th on Pride Day, which is this Sunday, 5 p.m. till 10 p.m. We might squeeze in a couple more minutes for an encore with
Please
the
don't
DJs.
message me for guest list, thank you.
Yeah, it's like sold out. Like, to all my sober friends, like, what were you thinking by not buying tickets? Like,
Are there
the-
any at the door? Any?
I don't know.
Oh.
Like literally, it's gonna be pretty crazy. So I just we've got our capacity and so forth, but I mean, if it was about making money, we would never do this event, because it's like
Yeah.
a total not making money kind of thing. So I could probably put more people in there, but I don't want to overcrowd the space, because it's gonna be hot, it's gonna be sunny, it's just, I want it to be comfortable for the
No,
people
for
that are
sure.
there. So we have 750 people for
Oh
sure
my
on site.
goodness! Wow.
So we've capped it at that, plus volunteers and performers and all that.
What's
So
that from last year? The numbers?
last year we capped out at like 650 or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, we probably could have sold a couple hundred more tickets, but then it's just and
Yeah.
it just gets messy. So I'd rather have, we'll see what happens on
Face.
Sunday. You know what? We got a few more minutes. Let's just go with the show, and we'll take a longer break at the end for the song. I want to go back to your stories and your personal stories and so forth. So, what does Kenneth do when Kenneth is in a bar? Because there's just so many people that it's a huge story for people in recovery. Do I go to bars? Do I not go to bars? I prefer not to go to bars. I lived in a bar my whole life, and I know. Yeah, I just don't go to bars. So I decided to like be part of activities and do
Totally.
events and bring the bar to me.
Right.
That's the kind of bitch I am. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
bring the bar to me. So that's my story. But I'm a human. I judge people, but I try not to judge people in recovery that go to bars.
You don't go to a whorehouse to get kissed.
Unless you're Catholic.
That's what a sponsor used to say to me. She's like, you don't go to a whorehouse
Oh,
to get
boy.
kissed.
What does Kenneth do?
Yeah.
It's 12 o'clock and there's like hot guys drinking and there's martini glasses with olives in them, and there's just, there's opportunity.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So when I go out, it's for a purpose. I don't go out leisurely. That's the truth. I go out to work, obviously for shows, and I go out, if I'm not in drag, to watch a show. I cannot remember the last time I leisurely went to a nightclub or a bar. That's just not how I spend my time any further. If it's someone's birthday or something along those lines, perhaps I will pop in for a few minutes. But it's not part of my like leisurely sort of like behavioral circle.
So now, so say you're doing your work or anything and you're feeling triggered, since you found your recovery with a one-on-one counselor, which many people do. What's your coping mechanisms at that moment and so forth? I mean, do you call your counselor? I don't think so. So do you have?
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do? I'm trying to get some of our viewers to maybe get.
Yeah. I mean, with I'm in nightclubs all the time, so
Yeah.
there's a variety of different different things. The last time I was actually like quote unquote triggered, I would say. I don't know if you would count this as a trigger, but we'll say it anyways. Maybe like a month ago, I was at a show and I accidentally got served, which I'm sure a lot of people in recovery have experienced this. I ordered a ginger ale and I actually got a whiskey ginger ale. So I drank a sip and then I spit it out right away. And I kind of went like black in my head. And I actually called another a girlfriend of mine who's also sober, who I went to NA meetings with in kind of off and on, and that's what I did. And that was the first thing I did. I called a friend. I stepped outside. I just took my moment, and I was like, this doesn't affect my sobriety. It's not like I'm going out again. it is what it is.
It means something.
Totally.
Like, I mean, a lot of people get clean, get sober because they have to. The pressure's on. They're saving a job, you know, whatever. The pressure's on. And some of us figure out, like, it has meaning.
Yes.
Like, life has a meaning now. And I think you touched on a big subject that gets overlooked. You know, that wherever I go, I consider, like, my purpose. And I consider my role and my responsibility, you know, and that's how I'm empowered. Because if I don't, I walk into a place, I mean, I can be overcome with powers that are influential, you know, if I'm there, like you say, casually and sort of didn't think about these things. And I love that. I love that, you know, it's not just this thing I do for fun, like that there's actual purpose in there. Because it's important.
And kind of when you go, if you do choose to go out leisurely, you kind of just need to disassociate. So what I usually do when I walk in, I scan the club. That's just what I do personally. So I kind of look at, like, maybe the people that I am okay with talking to, maybe people that I'm not comfortable having conversations, levels of intoxication in various different degrees. That's what I do. I'm a big scanner when I walk into venues, and you're in control in that situation. You know what I mean? You are in control of your own behavior. The only thing you can control.
That's so important because it's your responsibility. I mean, you wake up in the morning and it's your responsibility to go this way or to go that way, and that is recovery, is understanding that it's your responsibility and it's you're the one that's snorting, smoking, popping. Like, it's you. It's not anything else.
I couldn't help it.
I was there. No, I'm the number one believer
Yeah.
that the only thing in life that you are in control of is your own reactions to situations.
Going back to Darren's conversation about purpose and yours, you know, it's one of those things where there's a moment in time, if you're lucky enough, which I feel we have all been lucky enough to actually understand, and is to, like, the world's not here to entertain me. Like, I'm here to be part of that. And I'm walking into a room not to just take. I'm here to also give, and you give. Darren does lots of service, and it's when I learned that, because I showed up to the world, it's like, entertain me now, you know what I mean? And if you don't, I'm just going to move on to the next person. And I was never fully entertained, because you can't entertain me to a point where I'm entertained, if you know what I mean. There's always that emptiness. And when somebody told me, it's like, no, you need to look at it the other way. What are you going to do when you go to a meeting? Because if you sit there and just wait for a meeting to cure you, you're going to be miserable at those meetings. So it's one of those things that, you know, you bring that to yourself when you're walking into your shows, gives you that opportunity to make it through it. Alma, how about you? Do you have this guru that you go to? Do you have this place that you go to? You're in a bar 7 days a week sometimes. I mean, it can't be just super easy.
You know, for the most part, I'm usually so busy and so focused on what I need to do that, you know, I'm not even thinking about my purpose. I'm just all about my purpose, which is like, I have a show to do, you know, and so I don't like come an hour early and mingle with people, you know, over cocktails before the show. My show starts at 11:30. I've sent my set list in hours earlier. I've got all the music organized. I arrive at like 11:15 sometimes, and we start the show 20 minutes later, and the show is over, and then I leave. And it's, you know, like, the only things that I do, like, for nightclubs that save me is, like, I know usually past 1 o'clock, I'm not going to be triggered. I'm going to be annoyed. So usually past 1 o'clock, I'm not gonna be triggered. I'm gonna be annoyed. Because but on the bright side, all those people are showing me exactly why I need to keep on the path that I'm on. And I have been there for people, and you know, because it's like the front line, right? People know I'm sober. People do come up to me and want to confide in me and stuff like that, and I usually pretty quickly just try to steer them towards services, because you know, when I'm in drag and it's 2 a.m. and you're wasted at the club, is not the time to talk about recovery.
Exactly.
But people want to talk about it, and I've had instances where I've like just full on let people know exactly where I'm perceiving them to be at, like, you know, so yeah.
So it's interesting because when I hear you describe it, it sounds like it's business,
Yeah.
right? Is that there's got to be more? And again, I'm asking for us laymen's, right?
Yeah.
Is it more than
Just
just?
so everybody knows, Darren's straight. Okay, everybody.
But I can perform.
There you go. Yes, yes.
But is it expression? I mean, obviously it means something different to every individual, right? Whether it's an alter ego, they may be hiding at the time, you know, it's business for another. Is it something more for you, being sober and clean, or is it still just what it was from the beginning?
Well, being sober and clean isn't necessarily like my business. Like my art and trying to make a living at something I love doing, that's my business.
Right.
But being sober definitely helps that for me. Yeah, just.
And what is the creative outlet there? Like, what is it that you try to connect people with?
Well, you know, I'm
Who
sort
is
of.
Alma Bitches?
Who's Alma Bitches? Well, she's a bitch.
No, she's not.
Are we
No.
allowed to even say that? I never even asked, but it doesn't matter. So who
He's said it a
is?
bunch of times already.
Yeah. So who is Alma? Yeah.
Who? Well, you know, she's a clean and sober performer. You know, I have a day job. I've been in recovery for it'll be 17 years in August. Yeah.
17.
Yeah. So, and I only used for like 7 years of my life. So like my cells have gone over twice since then. So I'm a completely different person 2 times over and a half.
Completely regenerated.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so, you know, yeah, I don't, you know, I feel for the people that struggle when they go out, because there's lots of great stuff that happens when you go out. You'll find certain people like myself or like Kendal that are super open. I remember the first time I went to a drag show and they welcomed the sober people.
Wow.
I know. This happened at Man Up, Vancouver, when I was at the Cobalt, and Ponyboy was doing their big long list, you know, of housekeeping before the show, and it was like, and all the sober people that are here, welcome, thank you for being with us. And I was just like, oh, like, wow, now I actually feel like, I feel really good about being here, that kind of thing. So,
You're not an outsider drinking Coca-Cola.
yeah, because you do get those people who are, you know, they're like, hanging here, and it's like, well, because I really like watching drag, you know.
And who's Kendal Gender?
Kendall Gender is a queen that kind of lives off of power in a variety of different degrees. I use the power of sex, I use the power of comedy, I use the power of love. For me, my drag character is really, really, really ingrained in strength and power. You'll see that when I perform, there's a lot of kicks and punches and jumping around. But for me, that's where I get my strength from.
So we've got a few minutes left. I want to talk about the Vancouver drag scene.
Mhm.
So you have, you know, an opportunity to know all the performers and so forth. You've traveled and done shows in different cities. What is the Vancouver drag scene? Do we have? I mean, we've got some of the best performers, I think. So we got lots of
really do.
shows. We've got limited clubs, though, unfortunately. But so what's going on with the Vancouver drag scene? What's the latest news?
The latest news. Well, you know, over the last little bit, you know, clubs have closed. We've lost Cobalt. We've lost the new Odyssey that reopened. XY and 1181 both shut down, but then 1181 came back. But despite the fact that we have 3 bars that actively employ drag artists, we still have shows 7 nights a week.
Yes.
On Davie Street, which is incredible for
That is pretty
like for a
incredible.
place like Vancouver. Like, I don't know, Vancouver's not that big compared to, like, you know, American cities, you know, and cities internationally and whatnot. Like, you know, when you travel, you realize that Vancouver is really just a really sweet beach town.
Yeah.
With some high rises, right?
I kind of agree. Yeah.
Yeah, which is mental how much we pay to live here. But anyways, like, but the drag scene, like I said, we have shows 7 nights a week, and, you know, some of them are packed to the gills with people, and some of them are just, you know, finding their voices or finding their crowds, but like they're all still happening. And, you know, the Brat Pack's been going for what, like 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, I've been doing Sanctuary for 4 years. Jaylene's been doing Legends for like 4 years. Like, there's Carlotta's been doing her show for like 10 years,
100 years.
100 million years.
And like with like you kind of mentioned, I've gotten the opportunity as his Alma to go to other cities and to know when you're going from Vancouver to another city. Sometimes you have that feeling, you're like, oh, am I gonna like match up? You don't really know.
Yeah.
But I can like confidently say that like we are a bunch of talented people here. Our drag is like it's so next level in a lot of ways, and the good part about it is that we have a lot of people supporting drag.
Yes.
There's a lot of opportunities for drag artists to be successful and to show their art.
We were talking in the car. You know, the show is pretty long on Sunday at Untoxicated, but it's like we've watched the crowd over the years, and they love the show.
Yeah.
And so we're doing a 2-hour show. So I wanted to touch on one topic that is a whole other show, but I really wanted to get it out there because I'm sure there's going to be some young people watching this on Facebook over the next couple of days. I'm not in the closet, and I like to perform, and there's definitely a lot of supports out there, but sometimes you just don't see the supports that are out there. So what do you say to young people that are just up and coming and too afraid to come out, and how did they start their drag career and all that kind of stuff? What do you think?
I would say, coming out is not an event, it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
So, I remember I used to think if I wasn't shouting it from the rooftops every single day with a loudspeaker, then I wasn't being true to myself. But, that's not really how it works. It's like, I remember my friend gave me this book when I first went to some gay recovery stuff, and it was the Homo Handbook. And one of the tips was just like, sit on a bench in public with this book in your hand, so people can see you holding this book. And that's like a step to becoming a little more comfortable. I never actually did that. But I remember just being like, oh, wow,
picture. I want to see that picture.
But like, it's not an event, it's a process, and slowly but surely, things happen, right? I remember now with social media, you don't even have to face your family to come out. You can just say I'm gay.
Yeah.
I'm queer, and just put it online. It's nicer to tell people in person, but as for drag, if you want to start your drag career, there's YouTube tutorials to do your makeup, come up with a drag name,
Well, I know a bit of your story. When you started your drag, it wasn't like Vancouver welcomes Alma. There was a little bit, because you had the beard and, all that. And I remember reading a post.
People always come to me and they say I usually hate bearded queens, but I really like you. And I was like, thanks for the compliment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I know that when you, earlier you said that you started your performance while you were, under the influence of drugs, but, take the drugs away. Was it easy for you to start? Did you need to, how was that?
Yeah, I mean, I was in theater as a kid, so I definitely had that, kind of knack for doing it. But when I wanted to get into it, the number one thing I would recommend is just sort of find your tribe, whether that's in your friendships or just within the community. Find that tribe of people that inspire you, and kind of learn from them and take it from there.
Find your tribe. That's what it's all about. Find your tribe in recovery. Find your tribe. Just find your tribe in community. And the thing is, be open to everyone, because I didn't know what my tribe was until I opened my mind and realized how many people can belong in it. So you're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We've been on air with Alma Bitches, the MC, this Sunday, and we got Kendal Gender that's part of our show at Untoxicated. Go to cleansoberandproud.com for more information. Talk Recovery Radio is powered by New West Recovery, which is made up of Last Door and Westminster, both treatment centers. And Darren's going to be closing up the show with our performer. Who's playing at Recovery Day?
Yeah, this is the just announced headliner, Sunreal, your BC's own. This is Parachute.
Yay!
That was great.
Thank you. Say bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Jake, thanks for holding the camera, Alex.